Greetings, my friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Let's Get Gritty podcast here with Dr. India White. I'm so thrilled to be here with you on this wonderful day. I hope you are taking care of yourself, and I hope that things are working out for you. I want to first start out by letting you know some announcements that the Let's Get Gritty podcast, it will be featured with Swain Girl Media Channel, hosted by Precious Swain. So you can visit the internet, visit various sources and find it there. Also, if you're wanting to follow me on social media, you can visit me on Facebook at Miss India White. My LinkedIn is The India White. Twitter is Indie Speak and Teach. Instagram is Indie238, and my YouTube channel is India White 123. Also, I wanted to remind you guys that if you're wanting more information regarding just some of the updates that I have going on, you can feel free to visit my website at www.india-white.com to find out more information, whether it's like information on website, webinars, courses, books, and things like that, to go ahead and get yourself plugged in. So with that said, I want to now just talk to you a little bit about grit today and what my focus is today regarding grit. I love grit. I consider myself to be a grit chick and equity chick, but grit chick as well. I would say that I have really been influenced and inspired to talk with you guys about this because I see that there is just such a need, especially in various areas within society and in the world of education with children, families, teachers, and whatnot, to really understand each other better and to understand how to motivate our students better, how to motivate parents in the community, and even how to, remain motivated as educators. So this show will be themed of, it will have a theme of having grit in such a way that you're able to connect with others through grit. So the title of this show is going to be Connecting Through Grit. So I want to talk today about connecting with students and community members, with anyone, through grit. Okay, so first things first, we're going to talk about what are some different ways that we can connect. I know right now our nation has been going through so much regarding culture, connection with ethnicities, celebrating diversity. There's a lot going on, and people just don't know how to really move forward. And so I want to first talk with you about just some strategies for connecting with other people. I want to first start out by talking about cross-cultural communication and interhumanism. These are two wonderful terms that I think are really helping us not only close the achievement gap, but to really just learn how to not live in silos and to learn how to get along with each other in a way that is conducive for learning, in a way that is healthy as we have our interactions in society. I had a situation recently. I was dropping my son at the bus stop, and I had an older Caucasian male come up to me, not knowing that I was simply in the area for dropping my son off at the bus stop. And he kind of gave me a look of disdain and was like, "This is private property. You need to get off of here. You need to go." And what he didn't understand was that particular area that I was in with my son, we've been going there for years to drop my children off at the bus stop. So thoughts are going through my mind, like, is this really like one of those kin moments that people are talking about? That did I just experience this? And then I kind of said to myself, well, how can I handle this in a way that is professional and conducive and effective? I don't have to get all bent out of shape, right? I had just got my son, right? Just picked him up. And so, long story short, I told the man, I said, thank you so much for letting me know. I did not know that this was private property. By the way, sir, we've been coming here for a couple of years, just to let you know. And no one's ever told us that. So thanks again. And then, of course, he says, well, people come over here and they clean and they mow the grass and all this. And I said, thank you so much again. Again, I apologize. I didn't know. We'll be soon to go because I was, getting everything situated. But it made me think I could have had so much negativity stem out of that one event. I mean, I could have had the cops called on me. I could have had this huge argument with this stranger, and all of this other stuff if I was not cognizant of how to communicate effectively with someone that is disgruntled. And if I didn't also understand how to even empathize and put myself in that man's shoes. Personally, I don't think parents that are dropping their children off at a bus stop are thinking to themselves, oh, this is private property, so I don't know if we can park on the side, or I don't know if we can, be here, when you see that there are 20 other children hanging out, right? So long story short, I am thankful that I was able to walk away in peace, and that nothing really came out of that encounter. But it makes me come back to that cross-cultural communication. How to do that in a way where even when you are a little bit annoyed, how do you come across as still being, professional, kind, and considerate to others, especially those that might not belong in your cultural group. So we're going to talk a little bit about cross-cultural communication and interhumanism. First things first, I want to just let you know cross-cultural communication, give you some tips about what that is. Cross-cultural communication is when you are able to really consider the culture of other people and understand what it takes for you as an individual to communicate in a way that is not offensive, in a way that is respectful, so that you can get a specific task done, so that you can relate to a specific culture. So for instance, if I am going to a particular restaurant, whether it's like an Asian restaurant or whatnot, and they used chopsticks, I might want to study a little bit about how to use those, instead of assuming that they're going to have a fork and to accommodate for me, because I'm American. So those are some things that you can do. So I want to read here now. I got this from Chrysos.org. 10 tips for cross-culture communication. For one, maintain etiquette. Find out what the etiquette is. So if the etiquette has certain expectations regarding your image, the way you show up at a place, the way that you might say please and thank you, be mindful of that and do your best to implement those proper etiquette techniques so that you're not offensive to others. Avoid slang. Not everybody is going to be, just head over heels about slang usage, especially if you are trying to use slang in a different language, a language other than your native language. That can come off as highly offensive, especially if you are not really fluent in that language. So avoiding slang is another tip. Tip number 3, speak slowly. It's very it can be very annoying when you are speaking in you're speaking in a language that is not the native language of someone else, and you're just rambling off at 20,000 words a minute. That can come off as a little bit overwhelming, and it could flush the other person, and it could, be stressful, and it could even be a turn off to where that other person now just has lost interest in, whether it's doing business, or if it's a student, they might lose interest in your subject because they feel like you just didn't care. So that's something to keep in mind. The next tip, keep it simple. So when communicating, definitely keeping it simple. You don't have to write an abstract every time, you're writing something or explaining something. It's not a dissertation. So keeping it simple, making sure people understand, asking also for a follow-up. Do you understand? Are there any questions? Just being mindful of people is key. And then, of course, practicing active listening. This is imperative for any relationship building, that you're trying to do, or any partnership. Having active listening, especially if somebody is voicing a concern or an opinion. Having active listening, looking them in the eye, not in a way where you're like staring and you're like weird, but just kind of, casually just hearing them out, shaking your head, nodding your head yes, or just listening. And then of course thanking them for what they said, and then repeating to them what they said so that they understood that you were with them the entire time. These are some key skills that you want to practice. for cross-cultural communication. Let's keep going because we're going to talk about the next 5 tips. Tip number 6, take turns to talk. Sometimes it's tempting to just run with it and just have almost like a monologue where you're just going on and on. And listen, I know we all think we're rock stars, right? And we all are in our own right. But sometimes it it pays to listen. Somebody put a quote out, and I just saw this on social media, and it was like, the older I got, the wiser they got, right? And then it says, the more I listened. And that just struck me because it was like, wow, sometimes it pays to just be silent and just to listen. It's not an insult, and it's like, don't you wonder sometimes, especially like I'm so intrigued by other cultures and just other people. I'm so in love with ethnicities and culture and different identities besides my own. And I love my culture, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, I just love people. I love just equity. I love everything about it. And sometimes I just want to hear from another culture, to hear, their opinions on certain things, to hear them voice out, their mindsets. I love it. I remember I had a presentation in Washington, D.C., and I met a man there from Scotland. Oh my gosh, I will never forget it because he was so different. And it was so fun. Like, I could listen to him talk all day because he had like that Scottish accent, and to me it was an accent, and it was just so cool, like, to hear him and to talk about the royal family, and which I do watch things about the royal family, and anyway, long story short, so I love that, and I think that we miss out on opportunities to really understand the world and understand our role in the world, and understand how we can make the world a better place by embracing other cultures and respecting other cultures in their own right. So I know not everybody's is as thrilled as I am. I'm very thrilled about other cultures. I mean, and that, I know I talked about the Scotland example. I'll never forget when I was a student at University of Florida, Go Gators, which, by the way, shout out to UF for being the #1 public university in the U.S. Love it. Go Gators. So I remembered as an undergraduate at University of Florida, one of my first friends was this lady named Li, L-I. She's from China. She was a foreign exchange student, is what she was titled at the time, an international student. And I remembered having a conversation with Lee, and I was trying to make her laugh. Like, I was giving her all the jokes. Like, how, like, you're in a place where you're, like, making yourself laugh, and you're like, ha ha ha, you're just laughing. You're, like, about to cry laughing. Because like, what you're saying is funny. And I'm like, oh, yeah, da da da, ha 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 ha. And I'm, like, laughing. And Lee's just staring at me, just blank face. Like, and I'm like, why is she not laughing? Right? And then Lee finally, after I'm, like, dying laughing, like... she says to me, she says, "You are very funny. In my culture, we do not show expression in our face. You are very funny." And I was like, whoa. Like, awareness. I didn't know that. I didn't know that in certain parts of China that they didn't show expression in their face, for different emotions. And so she was dying laughing inside, but I mean, I was like crying laughing on the outside, but she's really cool, and I'm thankful for that experience. And so with that said, being an active listener is one of the key things, and then taking turns to talk, because then you're able to really embrace those cultures and embrace the person, and how they feel, where they're coming from, and understanding their perspective, because not everybody thinks like us, right? So it is key to have people at the table that do think differently from you and are from a different background from you, if you're wanting to kind of get a bigger picture of things. Okay, tip number 7, write things down. Studies have shown previously that if you write something down, you retain about 80% of knowledge, but if you just listen or hear it, you get about 25% of the knowledge. So I tell my kids that, when I was teaching math, I would tell my students that all the time. Write it down. Also, number 8, avoid closed questions. Those, so what do you think? Yes or no? Like, the reason why is because those will stop the conversation, and then it gets socially awkward, it gets really weird, and then people are just staring at each other, and it's just weird. Next, tip number 9. Be careful with humor. Some people find it offensive. They are very sensitive. Some people don't like dry humor. I love dry humor. Some don't. Some people don't like sarcasm. It depends, right? And so we have to be very careful because humor, it's meant to be humorous, but sometimes it could be damaging, especially if you're joking about a culture or race, or you're saying something that you think is cool with a particular culture, like you're talking about stereotypes and things like that, and you think you can turn it into a laugh. Well, you might have a negative encounter from that, and so that can all be avoided if you just think twice before doing those things. And then, of course, being supportive. Definitely being supportive, whatever that takes, as long as it's not detrimental to you. Being supportive of the people that you've been working with, collaborating with, students that you've been teaching, figuring out how you can be supportive. And here, that's a great time to ask as well, like, what more can I do to support you in their various endeavors? Now that we've talked about cross-cultural communication, I want to talk a little bit more about interhumanism. This is integral humanism. It's a coined term, or term coined by Dean Dyle. I cannot say that name. I don't want to. It looks like it's Abadiah. I don't want to butcher names. I hate doing that. But this is kind of in the sense of interhumanism, and it says that it means that the human being is at the core position of the social, political, and economic model. And I got that from UPSC with nikhil.com. And so when you're talking about like interhumanism, it's all about those internal relationships, that peer-to-peer connection, and it's about seeing someone as a human being, and not like, for instance, like back in the day where like African Americans weren't even seen as a whole person, but instead, like, America has moved forward with restoring the value and the worth of even African Americans, because we are 100% human, right? So it's kind of like taking that concept of, okay, I won't minimize you or devalue you as a person. And when I look at you, I won't give you a thought of, oh, I think you're less than me because of your skin color, or I think you're less than me because of your culture, or because of your language, or because of your race, or because of whatever. I hate it when, and that's a strong word. I hate it when I encounter someone and I can feel a vibe of hate. I can feel a vibe of, oh, I'm better than you, or you're less than me, or I don't do you because of your race. Things like that, which, believe me, that can be felt. We can vibe it out, and that's the thing about having these social connections with people, and these interhumanism moments, because people think that they can hide their hate. You cannot hide your hate. People will feel it out. You can vibe it out. I can remember being in a social dynamic. This was years ago, and there was somebody in the group, and they just were sulking in anger. And it was like, when you would look at them or go near them, it felt like they were stabbing you with their spirit, like they were stabbing you with the vibe. Well, people can feel that kind of stuff, especially if they're different in the group. Listen, when people are culturally different, socially different, linguistically different in a group, socioeconomically different, they can feel when they're not welcome. They can feel. So we can say, oh yeah, I like you, it's good. But then they can feel the hate. They can feel the judgment. You can't hide that. I don't care how much we smile, how much we say nice things. If that vibe is ugly, it's going to come out, people are going to feel it, and it's going to impact the way of work in a business, in a school setting, connected with parents, community, and whatnot. So working with the core position of the social and political part of people is key. Figuring out how to resolve any negativity we might have towards, someone of a different race, someone of a different language, some of a different status than us, figuring out how to work through those so that we can work together. And so with that said, that leads me to the next point of the four main human relations skills. They include communication, empathy, stress management, and conflict solution. I got that from scholar.flatworldknowledge.org. Yeah, it was .org, I think, or .com. I don't want to misquote. I want to give them. I can't stand plagiarism and copyright, so I try to make sure I give people credit to where credit is due. So take a moment to look that up. So the four main human relation communication. How are you communicating? And when there's the elephant in the room, use grit to work past the elephant in the room. How do you do that? Grit in your mindset. So, do you have something going on? Is there a fear? Is there a bias? Is there a worry? Is there some type of uneasiness? What do you have to work out? Have a conversation within and internalize this and say, okay, what do I need to work out? How can I be pleasant in this situation so that we can move past, anything uncomfortable so that we can continue to work together? And then having empathy. Sometimes the reason why we come to the table with a strong, ugly vibe is because we have not been empathetic enough. Have we put ourselves in the person's shoes that we are working with? Or have we put ourselves in that student's shoes that we despise, or the student that has been targeted or disdained? What have we done to really try to connect with that child and their culture and their family? Also, stress management. Where is your stress level? I have really been on this self-care kick lately. I think all of us should be doing our best to love ourselves first, because how can we love others if we're really not loving ourselves first? So self-management, figuring out how to manage what we are allowing in our life for good. Are we doing positive affirmations, or are we always listening to negative? Are we allowing abusive people to have any kind of say in our lives? Are we allowing ourselves to sit under controlling environments that are toxic and wild, that are affecting our psyche and our OODA loop? Like, what are we doing? If we are not taking great steps towards stress management, we definitely need to pump the brakes and figure out how to change the trajectory of our lives, whether that's through counseling, meditation, going to the beach, getting a massage, going to therapy, whatever it is that it takes to make sure that we are making positive steps. I've just, unfortunately, I've had to endure quite a bit of things, and grit has helped me, and of course the grace of God has helped me. But what I'm saying is, I've had to remove myself from certain situations that were not beneficial for my mental health, for my emotional health, for my financial well-being, and for my personal, just the way I saw myself every day, my identity. I mean, and I've had people that have said some pretty wild things. People have done some things, and I took some crazy stuff for years. I allowed people to make me believe that I was less than them. I allowed people to make me believe that I did something wrong because I was different, or because I was educated, or I just flowed differently. And I had to step back and say, why am I giving these people this type of power over my life? They're not God. They're not God. And why am I allowing people to make me feel like I've done something wrong when all I did was show up? And so students, they're going to need help as well with stress management, so that when they show up into the classroom, there's not this unnecessary pressure on them, and that, their educators are actually advocates supporting for them and not trying to take them down in any type of way. The last thing you want to do definitely is conflict resolution. So conflict resolution, what are you doing to resolve conflict? I posted something on social media the other day, and one of the lines I said was, handle your vengeance, but make sure it doesn't backfire. So one thing about vengeance, there's a scripture in the Bible. I am a believer, so it says, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, I will repay. However, sometimes people want to take matters into their own hands, and they want to repay themselves, and then it backfires. We don't know who is set up for what. We don't know who God has anointed for what. We've got to be very careful when trying to have conflict resolution and deal with matters, deal with injustices. because it could definitely backfire in the long run, and that's something that you don't want to deal with. So be very mindful when you are doing conflict resolution that you're trying to present win-win situations and that you're not trying to take matters in your own hands in a way that would be detrimental to the other person. That would eventually turn around on you. And sometimes people think, oh, yeah, I got away with that. I got them. Or, haha, look, I got that. I got the upper hand on that. You don't know what's going to happen 5 years from now. You don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now. So deal wisely. Whenever you have conflict resolution, and even in the classroom, you're helping children. Being fair about conflicts, what took place, figuring out both sides of the story. And then, of course, doing what you can to support your students and the student that may have offended or did something and they're being accused. What can you do to help restore that student back into the classroom? Definitely don't let that student beat themselves up forever because they still need to learn. They still need to be a part of the class. So providing win-win conversations, win-win solutions, and then reminding those students that they are valued and that they are still a part of your classroom environment and that you do need them into the class or in your class is key. So with that said, now I want to talk about how then do you connect with students through grit. Not everybody has a lovey-dovey story of how they connect with students. Some teachers are introverted. Some teachers are socially avoidant. Some teachers are too extroverted. Like there's so much. So we have to just constantly learn what we need to do. So some things you want to do when you're trying to connect with students through grit, be intentional about building relationships with students, study their background, use cultural relevance, say please, thank you, and I'm sorry, and then of course be humble. So being intentional about building relationships with your students is key because students don't want to feel left out. Like they don't want to come all the way to class just to sit there and be on an island by themselves and to feel weird. The thing I hate is when a student has been bullied or just socially bullied, and then it's been allowed in that classroom, and now that student is just making excuses as to why they're just a misfit. And then unfortunately that can turn into situations that are violent, and detrimental to society. So we have to definitely make sure that we're being proactive about being intentional when we're building relationships with our students. Study the backgrounds of your students as well. So where did the student come from? What's going on with their home? What's going on in the community? What's going on, what happened years prior? Figure out what's going on. What do they celebrate? Do they go to sporting events? What helps them? What turns their motor? What is it about your students? What's their favorite song? What's their favorite, sport or favorite thing to do? What's their favorite video game? Figure out those things, study those things, and gather those so that you can have the right opinion and so that you can be more empathetic when you're speaking with those students. Relevant is key when you're trying to connect with anyone because when you do use cultural relevance, it helps you to remain relevant in your conversation, and it just makes it feel more comfortable. It makes you feel more connected, like you're not weird, like it really takes away any social awkwardness, and it opens that conversation and it breaks the guards down that people might have had, when trying to connect with you. And then of course saying please, thank you, I'm sorry, and being humble. Saying please, thank you, I'm sorry. And then, of course, being humble. There's nothing wrong with adding an extra please or an extra thank you or even saying I'm sorry. Some people just can't say I'm sorry. Like they feel like it takes away from them. But I think that the more I'm sorry's that you can say from the bottom of your heart, and mean it, and, just not only saying I'm sorry, but having a plan as to how you can change your ways, I think the more powerful you become. I think the more tender you can make your heart, the more that you can help others. And then being humble, of course, there's scripture that talks about that in it, and there's also just so many different wise things that talks about, when you humble yourself, you'll be promoted, and vice versa. So just remaining humble, remembering where you came from, where you started, and remembering your purpose, and not allowing success, not allowing your status or whatever get to your head, but to really remain humble. And so, with that said, those are some key tips for cross-culture communication and interhumanism, and how we can connect with students through grit, how we can connect with others through grit. And I wish that, I hope that this can help all of us as we are constantly aiming towards just being better people in society and connecting and growing together and staying connected together, especially through different turbulent times that we might face in society. So, with that said, thanks so much for tuning in to the Let's Get Gritty podcast. Again, some reminders: this podcast will be featured on Swain Girl Media channel, hosted by Precious Swain. Also, if you're wanting to connect with me via Facebook, you can connect with me. My social media is Miss India White. My LinkedIn is The India White. Twitter is Indie Speak and Teach. Instagram is Indie238. And my YouTube channel is India White 123. Also, I wanted to remind you guys of connecting with me on my website. Go to www.india-white.com for books, blogs, and to schedule me for your next speaking or coaching event. I am available for you, but just you've got to let me know what you're needing from me, okay? And then, of course, I wanted to end with a really cool announcement. The IES Math Summit, this is by the National Center of Education Statistics, which I am such a dork about things like this. The National Center of Education Statistics, I believe they partner with the NCTM, and they are hosting this IES Math Summit where there will be leaders from all over the globe, or all over the nation, definitely. You've got Commissioner of Education. You've got so many different people that were going to be in the room that will be speaking to us on different educational issues. And so it is imperative that if you can make time to register and go, please do, because this is a once in a lifetime type of thing where you're getting top-notch data, top-notch research, top-notch presentations from people all over. This is going to be nothing less than a blessing, and I hope that, if you're in education and you're really trying to hear from solid voices in the math community, education community, and you're just wanting to know just top-notch trending data, trending facts, whatever, you want to attend this. So this is the IES Math Summit. It's on September 19th. 1:45 p.m. It is with the National Center of Education Statistics. You can Google this and find out more information. I did put some posts also on social media. My session personally is going to be on September 19th at 1:45 p.m. I'll be speaking on learning progressions and high school pathways and how to close the achievement gap with that. So, with that said, thanks so much for joining me on the Let's Get Gritty podcast. And feel free to reach out to me if you're wanting to be part of the Let's Get Gritty podcast. Please send me an email of your photo and your bio. Send it to india.white.123@gmail.com. Again, that's india.white.123@gmail.com. Hopefully, I'll be able to see some of you guys at the IES Math Summit. Some of my friends out there that are speaking. Can't wait to see you guys speak. And also, don't forget the other conferences. We've got the NCTM annual conference coming up. If you haven't registered for that, we've got the NCSM conference coming up. If you haven't registered for that, you might want to check that out. Also, we've got OCTM coming up in Ohio and some other great things. Oh, we've got Chicago coming up, or ICTM in Illinois. So definitely do what you can to kind of explore and join us as we are on these stages, delivering content and connecting with all of you. So with that said, do what you can to continue to connect with each other and to definitely connect with students through grit. And until next time, stay gritty. I'll see you guys later.